reference it in terms of how I talk about it with clients is that when we do this work, it's probably going to feel mostly like a skin stretch. It's going to be on a superficial level to start with. And it's really the start of the change. Oh, since it's Halloween, I have a little like visual for us. That's perfect. I actually went to Target and I bought some it's hide and eek instead of hide and seek. They used a pun. Nunzia is smiling behind the camera. You can't see this, but it's great. So this is actually spider webbing, and it's what fascia looks like, and it's continuous from skin to bones. So when we're influencing the superficial layer, we're influencing something potentially that could be reaching into the periosteum of the bone. So when I explain it to people, I'm saying we're getting started on the thread, but if we miss what was on the surface, we might miss more than half the problem. So that's a nice way to introduce it to some of the people that insist that deeper work is better. You're saying, we're going deep, we're starting at the beginning of that. And so that might be a nice way to reference it. And what's cool is, I'm gonna unravel this a little bit. So as we're working, can I put this over you? Just kidding. Sure. So the idea, what I wanna point out is, if this is his arm, this is what the fascia is gonna be looking like. Here, if you hold on to it, that's even better. This is what it's gonna look like underneath the skin. And so, yes, we know what all of the forearm muscles look like. Yes, we know what the bicep looks like. But I've got to be willing to let go of that map a little bit to work on the fascia, because his fascia is going to model specifically like his fingerprint. It's going to be unique to his personal experience and whatever he did that day or the day before. So I need to be able to let go a little bit of the model of the body that I understand to go into the chaos of his fascia. So this is a nice visual because, again, it's like, yeah, I know the muscles are really nice and organized, but oh my gosh, like there's this part that I really need to start to work on. And there's a denser spot here that I'm going to want to maybe feature and open up a little bit more. So it's going to be a little harder for you to see when I'm doing the work I'm doing now, but know that this is the map of what I'm looking at is, oh, where are there denser spots? Where is there going to be stuff that's a little harder to maybe work through that I want to spend a little more time with? I really like this because I was like, oh, this is a great visual to see. And in fact, like, feel free to buy some of this, it's Halloween time, so it's everywhere. And it might be a nice way to reference it for people that you're working with. Thank you. Well done. That's the most work you have to do.
Just really briefly, how does it attach to the bone? It's continuous through it's wrapping around all the muscle tissues and all the other structures, and then is it around the tendon or does it go into the tendon?
It's both and, it's incredible. They reference it two ways in some of the research that I was reading up on. They call it the organ of posture, fascia. They call it fascia, the organ of posture and the organ of communication in the body, because it touches everything. Have you ever seen mycelium?
Oh, she's saying, thinking that. She's like mycelium.
It is just like mycelium. Mycelium is used as the communication lines for all kinds of plants. In fact, not just mushrooms. And so it's almost identical in structure.
So it's really conductive.
Yes, so it's piezoelectric. That's the other piece of the puzzle now that we're talking about it, meaning it conducts a charge. So that's one of the other cool things about it, is that when I work to open it up, it becomes this really strong structure all of a sudden. It's like those umbrellas that go.
Yeah.
It's like that, and it can be as subtle as just the small, just setting something up, and then everything has more space.
I also understand that it stores energy.
Oh yeah.
It stores energy to release energy into power, into strength.
Yeah.
To assist the muscle, so it's more of a myofascial than a muscular, effort.
And then the cool thing about talking about it that way is that if there's a place that's held more than we want it to be, all of a sudden that energy is free to recirculate for that person. Like all of a sudden. So they're going to get this surge of opportunity. And change is precious resources at work. If I'm changing a body pattern, that's hard work for my system, even though it may be good work. So it builds on itself in a productive way. All right, so we've got our right shoulder that we're gonna work on. I'm wondering, camera-wise, do we wanna, is this okay? Is this easy to see what I'm up
Yep,
to?
you just do you, I'll be fine.
All right, thanks. So the way we're gonna work, we're gonna do two things first. When I see a shoulder pattern like this is the order of go that I really like. So this is a nice model. This is one option that you might choose to then use and have as your decision tree. So when I see this shoulder pattern, I wanna go to the pectorals first, and then I wanna go to the trapezius second. There's any number of other things I can and will do, but in this case, this will be for our work this morning. What I like to do first is I'm gonna start to create a little bit of downward pressure this way. It's angular. This is another part about working with fascia. It's always gonna be angular. There's never, and I say never, I'm speaking in simple terms, I'm speaking in oversimplified terms. I don't ever wanna press right straight down. It's not that it's not an okay thing to do, it's that I'm missing the fascia if I do that. Fascia is, if you wanna influence, this is a good principle and I probably have it in your notes, if you wanna influence fascia more than muscle, go angular. If you wanna influence superficial fascia more than deep fascia, go even more angular. So you're almost gonna feel at first like you're skating off the skin. This is also why I don't use any lubrication, almost none. If I have somebody coming in that's really a little dehydrated, I might use a little bit of shea butter. I did bring a couple things that if we decide you wanna experiment with today. They have a little more drag. Shea butter is one, and then I found this other cool thing that has a lot of like bee products in it, and I'm a beekeeper, so I'm like, it has propolis in it, I'm gonna buy it. Even though I could go out to my bee yard and scrape some propolis off of my hives for free. It just looks so pretty in the packaging.
Yeah.
And so as I'm getting started, Nate, just checking in with you, how does this feel just as I'm tuning into your fascia?
Feels good.
Good, okay. And then does it feel, do you get that skin stretch kind of feeling?
Feels a little deeper than a skin stretch, I would say.
Yeah.
Some tightness, to use the word that I'm not supposed to use.
That's good. Use any word you're not supposed to use, any and all words. So he's feeling it a little deeper, and in fact, I'm going a little deeper than just the skin, so that makes sense. And then revisiting the skin stretch that I was having you try on yourselves, got a little sidetracked. What you want to try for your own purposes is play around with, it's really going to be, you're dragging across the surface of the skin. And you feel how that creates, in a strange way, it feels a little bit like carpet burn in a good way. Do you get that kind of sense on yourselves? Can you feel sort of how that, yeah, you can try it too. Does that feel easy to kind of find, where you're dragging across the skin? Who knew it was going to be productive? But does that feel like pretty easy to kind of reference? I'm seeing some
Are
nods.
you kind of only going as deep as necessary to not skate off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in this particular case, and this is just to give you an initial feel of kind of where we're headed and what you want to feel when you're the person on the table. So this will be good. All right. So here it's a little deeper. There is a little more muscle here than there is on the forearm, so you'll probably feel that too. And what I'm going to have him do, this is going to be the speed read version because I want to get you right to it. I'm going to have him, once things feel like they're free enough, I'm going to have him actively move. This is a big deal. This is where it's a little different working with fascia in this way that allows it to be lighter and that allows it to be more productive, is that in working with consciousness, the more I want to amplify that work in this particular model, not in all, but in this one, I'm going to have the person move. I'm going to have them recruit some movement. So it's going to start, and I have this in the notes so you don't have to worry about it. You're going to have the person start, and I didn't do this yet, but the order of go is going to be that I'm going to have him first check out the movement side to side. So seeing just how you notice, I did a little bit of work on the right, but side to side, what do you notice left to right? So I'll just have you just check out some movement and see, do you notice a difference? So that's the first part.
Between the two sides?
Mm-hmm.
As always, this right feels harder to move, tighter.
Okay,
It
so
feels a little better than it did.
that's good. So it feels a little better than it did a minute ago, which is pretty cool. It's just a few minutes of work. And one of the things is if they can compare the two sides and say, is there something different one side versus the other? Great. Then I want to use it to compare later. So that's going to bring a little bit more of the consciousness, a little bit more of the awareness to what's going on inside their body. That's called interoception. So that's my ability to tell what's going on inside. And the more we build that, the more we're going to build their awareness of when they're better. So I'm already starting to lay the foundation for their attention to what's good. You know what I mean? So this is really great. any things you're noticing right now?
I'm noticing more sensation back here than I was noticing before you were working here, which is interesting.
This could not be better. I'm like, did that really just happen? This is brilliant, and I'm glad you mentioned it because this happens all the time with this particular thing. I would definitely, this is exciting. When you start to open up certain parts, other parts start to become more obvious. And so that's something to be able to tell your clients. And in fact, like there are times where I'll predict it and I'll be like, you'll probably feel something in the back, especially with people who might be like afraid to speak up about like, cause they don't wanna hurt my feelings or something, you know. It's like, you might notice more in the back of the shoulder after we open up the front because it doesn't have anything to orient around like it used to. And so what's really exciting is this is already happening just after a few moments. This is what you have to look forward to. Are you ready? Are you excited? 9 o'clock Saturday morning?
Yeah.
All right, what we're gonna do, so the first thing we've had him do is he's compared the two sides. We did a little skip ahead, and so we got this bonus, thank you, for him being able to start to feel something in the back that he hadn't noticed before. So as the fascia has already changed within seconds, which is what we're hoping for, or at least creating space for it, not that we have to hope for it, but then things already start to change. So what we're gonna do next, so I've had a chance, this is my speed read, I've had a chance to check in with the fascia in a couple of different directions. I like to call it, and it's borrowing from a term Bonnie Pruden used, it's called the compass technique. So I'm checking in with that spider web that's underneath the skin in all different directions. Yeah,
Are your hands moving in the same direction, or is one hand?
often.
Okay.
Yeah, they're mostly, great question. You could play around with adding different vectors and tell me what you figure out, because I'm sure that would be really helpful. Sometimes, when I'm working on a really broad, flat part in the fascia, and you'll see it in the neck, I will come out and sort of spread the area using my fingers. So in that case, I'm not. It's a good question. I'm like, ooh, I gotta write that down. Let me write that down. This is good. So the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take things into a little bit of movement. And this is gonna be movement that I'm gonna guide him through to start with. So I'm gonna have you gently draw your shoulder towards your ear. And I'm not gonna give too much feedback, and then you can reach your shoulder and your arm down towards your foot. And I typically like to just tell the person to slide it on the table so they're not doing too much active work in the muscles. And you're welcome to come around if you wanna see like what this looks like any closer. They're approaching. Yeah, good. And then you can draw your shoulder up again. Good. And then back down. So you're gonna take a little longer doing this when you get to the tables, but what I'm gonna have him do is the next step of this, which is gonna be, you're gonna reach down towards your side and then you're gonna bring your arm, keeping that reach, out to the side. So he's bringing, with engaged reach, he's bringing his arm out to the side. You can slowly roll your palm open as you do. Great. So they're having a little bit of a deeper breath already, which some of you may have noticed. Good. And then you can bring, as you're ready to, you can bring your arm back down to your side. For now, this particular moment. Yep. And you can let it rest. So the iteration you're going to be able to do is you can do a few of these. And we'll get creative with it in a moment. And so already his system is able to have a bit of a deeper breath that tells us information is moving, space is coming into the system a little bit better. And so then the next version of this is going to be that we're going to have him do a little bit of exploratory movement. So this is where we get to the even deeper parts of consciousness. Is I'm inquiring about what kind of intuitive movements. When you see a cat or dog get up from laying down, they do all kinds of cool stuff. We're built for that too. Some of us just have a little more social conditioning that we need to remove to get to what's really there and to get to what's deeper. It's like, what I want to help invite the person on the table to do is really start to look around a little bit more and say, oh, what do I need? Like, as one of my teachers says, and I really love the language, is it keeps it really open. What wants to happen here? Like what's going to feel really good to you to do? So that's what I'll invite. So as you're ready to, you can bring your arm out to the side again in this case. Good. And then you can start to just look around and just see, sort of looking inside of the muscles, inside of the joints, just feeling and you'll probably see some rotations coming in, some interesting movements in the wrist, opening up of the hand. It's whatever feels good. And again, I'm inviting them to look. That's the big deal. That's where, again, it's interesting because I'm really inviting them to the table, not just with their body, but with their whole self. It's like, what's in there? I don't know. Let's find out together. Let's see. And it's a safe space for them to do that. A lot of times an injury can come with some concern, all kinds of different feeling. And so to have this support on the table is really nurturing, really helpful. And this is the best place for them to start to do that. They might be a little bit nervous to do it on their own. I know at times in the past when I had been injured most of my 20s, before I figured out I'm hypermobile, so before I figured out how to exist in a hypermobile space, I was injured a lot and I was like, I'm just like scared to move on my own. Even my phone agreed, which I will turn on shortly. And so already he's getting into some really interesting movements here. And I want you to see this because this is all fair game for what can happen and for what you can do. How cool, we have a chorus.
Oh, okay. Backing up to the passive movement,
Yes.
and the guided movement. So when I experience it in the Tom Myers sessions, it seems very similar to like pin and stretch technique.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you're going for? As you're guiding the movement and just having them like extend and contract whichever muscle you're working over?
It's a great question. I'm going to start by saying yes.
Okay.
And then what we're going to graduate to is that you're, as the practitioner, unlike pin and stretch, you're going to be way more dynamic in your way of relating to the tissue. Pin and stretch means I'm not moving.
Yeah, and she's actually gliding it's similar but not exactly. She's gliding along the fascia as I'm kind of extending and contracting.
Yeah, and where this is different, there's less glide, way less glide. What I'm doing is it's more like it's like a slow motion trampoline, like I'm coming and going with the tissue. And it's more of a drag, more of an opening. So what that's providing is local rehydration of the area that might be a little matted down. So it creates a different effect. Love that question.
Interesting.
Yeah, and does that make sense? I can explain more as we go, and I'll explain it when I'll get a chance if people want me to work on them too a little bit, so you can get a sense.
Feel it 'cause
Yeah.
I can't do them.
Yeah, for sure. I'll describe more about that, and please ask me that again, because I really want to get a chance for you to feel the difference, especially since you've had a lot more of this work lately. That's more of the Tom Myers work. And then
Great.
things
Thank
are
you.
still, but yeah, you're welcome. And then other questions.
I think you might have asked me, answered it. It's just, what exactly are you doing as he's doing this movement?
Yeah.
And
And I'd love to give you like a few seconds to describe it. So work is still happening here, which is really cool. And you can feel that. Like we've still been working while we've been talking, which is great. So what I'm doing, so if you want to keep moving,